All right, Uhuru, everybody. Let me know that you're on. Hopefully you're out there. Uhuru. All right, Uhuru, everybody. How you doing? My name is Matsemela Odom. I'm the chair of the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign. I'm here hunkered down in San Diego, California, giving a Black Power salute to everybody out there, from San Diego to South Africa. The Uhuru movement is worldwide. Today I want to talk specifically about the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign, of which I am the chair. However, first and foremost, I'd like to begin this live broadcast by saluting of my leadership. First and foremost, the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party and the African Socialist International. I would also like to salute President Kalambayi Andanette of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, of which I am a member. Africans Charge Genocide is the campaign of the of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, InPDUM. InPDUM began in 1991 in Chicago, Illinois, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and for almost 30 years has been the vanguard organization organizing the African masses in the United States and internationally. We have comrades in South Africa. We have comrades in France. We have comrades in the UK. We got people that follow the movement from all over the world. All you have to do is go actually to the Burning Spear website. The Burning Spear website actually lets you view like where hits from the website actually goes to. And if you notice, as far south as Brazil and Argentina, as far east as China. So the science and the theory of the Uhuru movement is what we call African internationalism. For more information, like I said, go to theburningspear.com to read the articles. Go to apspuhuru.org to learn more about the African People's Socialist Party, and go to InPDUM, InPDUM.org to learn about the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. As members of the Uhuru movement, you can join as a member, you can join as a branch, you can join as a sustaining member, or you can just donate. This is the time in which we're calling upon all African people to contribute to the liberation of African people. We understand that we have our own best interests in mind. Us and us alone have the solutions for African problems. This is crucial for us to understand in many different ways because, as the Democrats and Republicans sit back and debate about, what sort of Band-Aid they'll put on top of the cancer that is parasitic colonialism, we know that even those sort of half-hearted reforms and measures will not be enough to solve the situation of African people, of colonized people from all around the world. We know that, for example, many Africans. Well, first off and foremost, one reason why this whole crisis we're under really, I would argue, is an example of how capitalism is actually failing. And one way capitalism we know is failing is 75% of the world's population does not labor under capitalism. Most people, as you all know, are out there surviving in the survival economy of one way or another. They are not capitalist labor. So the African working class instead sort of have been the laborers who have oftentimes the African working class are the people who produced It's on our backs through which capitalism and capitalist wealth has been produced. But we got people out there who we know are just surviving, just struggling, doing their best to live, and those people won't be counted. If you got relatives like I have that work at restaurants, work at rib shacks where they get paid underneath the table, those Africans will not be getting this money from Trump, no matter how half-hearted and what it is. So if you want to support the African working class and the liberation of the African working class, go to InPDUM, InPDUM.org/donate. And, unlike the Red Cross and all these other scam nonprofit organizations out there robbing African people, exploiting African people, the Clinton Foundation, all that other stuff, the money you give goes directly towards our organizing efforts. We don't, we are organization for the people. Supported by the people. For example, here's one thing that I've committed myself to. Some people know that I'm a professor. I teach Black Studies. And for the next few months, they have me working from home, so I don't drive anymore. So I've committed my gas money to the money I would be wasting on gas given to white power. I give that money directly to the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement, as well as other Africans that I know that are struggling right now. So we gotta support each other, and that's the thing about this this campaign. As I get into talking about the ACG campaign, what it really is all about. It's about charging white power with genocide against African people. But also understanding that the solution to the answer to that is reparations, right? Is reparations for all African people, all colonized people around the world. But like I said, reparations for all African people, not a specific set of African people, not just Africans who descend from slaves or anything like that, but all African people. We understand that that African people have been oppressed by a variety of different levels, right? Variety different levels. Colonialism, slavery, imperialism, neo-colonialism, neo-imperialism, and stuff like that. So let's begin by talking about the campaign, right? So Africans Charge Genocide began in 2015 as a campaign of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. It began in organizing response to two things. You had the Flint water crisis. You also had the death of Mike Brown. What the people demanded in Ferguson, St. Louis, Missouri, was black power, self-determination, liberation, control of their resources. Right? The people did not demand lapel cameras or any of that other liberal nonsense that people have argued over on TV for and stuff like that. They want liberation. They want control of their resources. In the United States, they want, like I said, black community control of police. So that's the origins of the ACG campaign. And if you go to theburningspear.com, if you go to InPDUM.org, you can learn the history. But also sort of would suggest you all to go and check out the larger and longer history of the Uhuru movement and this charge against genocide against the United States, because what we because that struggle takes us all the way back to the 1970s. In 1978, the moratorium against the death penalty in the United States In 1978, the moratorium against the death penalty in the United States was overturned. All throughout the United States, the death penalty was reinstated. And at that time, the party was deeply the African People's Socialist Party, which is the political leadership of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. Was deeply engaged in the anti-prison movement, as we still are. The Desi Woods campaign, support for Assata Shakur and all other African political prisoners. The chairman, Omali Yeshitela, at that time, the known as Joe Waller, the campaign to free Joe Waller, who was over a half dozen times in his life falsely imprisoned for fighting for African people. And stuff like that. So the fight against what we now call mass incarceration was central to it. So in 1979, the party took leadership in the anti-death penalty movement. And it's and understanding that the reinstatement of the death penalty, actually in many ways, the reinstatement of the death penalty really signaled this sort of turn that we're still seeing right now within the United States, a triumph of white power over the black liberation struggles of the 1960s and the 1970s, the global African liberation movement at that time. So the party charged the United States with genocide in the reinstatement of this of the death penalty. So the reason why I like to say that is because there was an organization that came out of that struggle. It was called the African National Prisoners Organization. It was a revolutionary African internationalist anti-prison organization, which came out of another movement run by the party, the African anti-prison movement. And stuff like that, and so in terms of the cause, but also in the methods, that really sort of established the what I would like to see as the ACG methodology to organize the ANPO. The chairman and others organized local working groups throughout the United States. It was the vessel to bring people back into political life. So if you look at, first and foremost, the organization of the African National Prisoners Organization and subsequently the African National Reparations Organization, it's the organization that brought people like Afeni Shakur back into political life, people like Queen Mother Moore back into political life. So that's really been the purpose and the struggle of the African of the Uhuru movement, and that's why I like to acknowledge those struggles in the late 70s and early 1980s as the actual origins of the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign. And importantly, what the party did at that time is that the party actually resurrected the reparations struggle, which had been created in the 1940s and the 1950s by African revolutionaries at that time, one of them being a woman by the name of Queen Mother Moore. Go to the 1982 edition of the Burning Spear. And if you want to look at some of those older Burning Spears, you can go to the University of Florida Digital Archives, and they've got those old Burning Spears going all the way back to 1969. You can also go to apspuhuru.org and look under a tab which says something like how the Uhuru movement or how the APSP led the charge for reparations or something like that. But in it, you get snippets from the November 1982 and December 1982 burning spears, which outlined the conference. And one of them has an interview by a lady by the name of Queen Mother Moore. Queen Mother Moore is a she's long understood as the oldest revolutionary in the United States. She had been a member of the UNIA. So one of the things that she notes is that in 1957 they took a petition to they were gathering stuff, and her, it was called the Ethiopian Women's Organization or something like that. And they had taken a petition to the United States, to the UN as well, but she notes that the movement had dropped off, right? We understand that was Malcolm's charge in the 1960s was to charge the United States with genocide, and we know that he was assassinated for those reasons as well. So that's the legacy that we stand upon, that we're calling you all to stand upon as well. So one of the questions I see out there, I need to slow down because sometimes I like to get so much out that I talk fast, but one of the questions that I see submitted is, what do we mean by charge genocide? Well, let me read the 1946 United Nations definition of genocide. The United Nations 1946 writes, genocide is a denial of the right of existence of entire human groups as homicide is denial of the right to live of individual human beings. Such denial of the right of existence shocks the conscience of mankind, results in the loss to humanity in the form of cultural and other contributions represented by these human groups, and is contrary to the moral law and to the spirit and aims of the United Nations. They go on to say that the role of the UN, the UN suggests that their role was no. So that is the UN's definition of genocide. Now it's important for us to understand that the true role of the UN since World War II has been as the unifier and peacekeeper among predatory, imperialist, and white power that have historically gone to war over division of colonial capitalist spoils among themselves. So, in short, we know for a fact that the actual role of the UN was to make sure that European and Western colonial powers never went to war again, as they had done twice over the span of 30 years because of imperialism. So the UN, in many ways, is meant to referee imperialism. That's why when you look at the UN, the majority of the UN nations are not white nations, are not European colonial nations, but the UN Defense Council are the people who hold the power, and these are the people who have continuously used their power against the self-determination of African of African people. That's why, but we understand that like it's useful to use their definition to expose the hypocrisy in their own ideology as we push for our own liberation, for African internationalist demands, right? For liberation. So let me look through a couple more. One thing I'll do, also go to africanschargegenocide.org and sign the petition now. Africans Charge Genocide.org and sign the petition now. When you sign the petition, you'll be part of our mailing group. We've got almost 11,000 signatures on that petition. And one thing that we're doing is we're going to publish the petition, publish the signatures, and also publish the different aspects of genocide, the different case studies that our working groups are developing, and present that. So this is a time in which we calling for all African people to give your skills back to the struggle and liberation of African people. As I told you, I'm a professor. Right, I give in giving my skills back to the African nation. It is our goal to help create a publication through which we will document those ideas. Those claims of genocide against African people and present those on the world stage. But I'm calling upon some of you lawyers out there that are lawyers that know that your skills are not being placed to use for African people. Place those skills to use for African people. Join the ACG campaign, right? Join our efforts to bring the struggle and the charge against genocide against African people to the international stage. So next question. How is the demand for reparations not a handout? How is the demand not a handout? Well, how can it be a handout if you demanded people to give back what they stole from you? It's very plain and simple. But this is crucial because in the United States, people will say, reactionaries will say this, and even some liberals will say this. Well, we've got welfare system, we've got the Great Society programs, we've got affirmative action, right? Were those not reparation struggles? No, we're demanding a return of the resources and the land stolen from African people, right? It's very clear that the solution. It's very clear that when the UN was created in response to the mass genocide of Jewish people in Europe by Europeans, it's very clear that the UN solution to this was land distribution and reparations to those people. The problem is the land that they gave to those people weren't those people's, right? It was the land of Palestinian people, but we could talk about that as well, right? But it's very clear, even from the UN's belief, that the solution is reparation, and the solution is to return resources and land given to people. It's not hyperbole, it's not analogy or anything like that to understand that what Africa Africa and African people have experienced is genocide. I mean, go back to Marx. Marx's Capital. And Marx's Capital, you talking about 100 years before the founding of the United Nations. Karl Marx explicitly said that capitalism had turned Africa into a reserve for the hunting of black hides, right? So it's very clear that even someone as flawed and contradictory as Marx is very clear in European studies. You should go back further to Bartolome de las Casas and other Europeans, right? All those people understood that, say, Africans and indigenous people experienced genocide, and the solution to that, but we know that the solution to that genocide is reparations. So that's how it's not a handout. What did Leopold and Cecil Rhodes do in terms of genocide? Right, so it's very important, right? Like I said, this is the African internationalist perspective, and in understanding African internationalist perspective, we understand that, say, colonialism, imperialism, genocide, is an overarching international system. It's not a coincidence that at the same time that the Jim Crow laws, the form of domestic colonialism and imperialism within the United States was being in the United States was being crafted, that Leopold was enslaving, torturing, killing Africans in Central Africa, that Cecil Rhodes in Southern Africa was doing the same. First and foremost, this is the reason why in the movement, there's a lot of talk about what you call like racism and anti-racism and stuff like that. But this is why in the movement we don't really use that term racism. What we use the term is colonialism, imperialism, because we understand that well, first off, the term racism alone, right? What's the resolutions? What's the way in which you would resolve racism? Oh, they think bad about us, that we want them to think positive about us. But what about your resources? Right. What about your resources? Right. Jim Crow in the United States was a colonial system, just like the system Cecil Rhodes placed in Southern Africa, Leopold placed in Central Africa. And for what? The goal is to take African resources out of the African community to the center of white power, and to build those societies at the same time. Right. So that is the goal of those that is how those systems work, right? So whether we're talking about the United States Congress and the presidents that presided over Jim Crow in the U.S. to the colonization of Africans in Southern Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, to the exploitation of African laborers, forced to move all around the world at that time. That's what they did. Also, when we talk about Cecil Rhodes and Leopold, it's important to note that a conservative, an academic estimate of the people killed in Central Africa by Leopold is at least 10 to 15 million people. So in a matter of about 60 years, the Belgians killed 10 to 15 million people. This is in what's now the Congo. This isn't including the killing of anywhere between 500,000 and 2 million Herero people in what's now Namibia. The killing of millions of people in southern Africa, in what's now Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, which are all occupied territories. It's important to understand that sort of we understand and we demand a sort of a unified Africa, as the solution. Unified Africa without these different colonial borders and stuff like that. Hopefully that answered that question. What they did, they really Cecil Rhodes and Leopold laid the blueprint. But as we analyze their blueprint, we understand that the way in which Africans caught hell here, Africans caught hell on the continent as well, and then they create these borders to have us sort of fighting against each other and things like that. One question: would you say we are winning in our case against America? What is your perspective on that? Yeah, I mean, what is say? Bunny Wells says, I like to see Babylon fail. Right? So Babylon the Great has fallen. It's very clear that clear of this. I mean, it's not a joke, right? I'm not cracking jokes or anything like that. I saw a video and it made my stomach sink. It was a video of a hospital in Brooklyn, and they had bodies of of indigenous people. And it's important to know that when we talk about indigenous people, we talking about the people from North America all the way down to South America, right? So people of the Caribbean, right? So I seen, people that we might call Puerto Ricans, right? The people, colonized people from Puerto Rico, colonized people from Mexico and South America, from the Caribbean, from Africa, laying on these hospital floors. I mean, outlined in tape, laying on the hospital floors, coughing and literally just waiting to die because of this system. If there's any moment then now that through which the ACG campaign can be made very real and very clear is that, but what I would say is that, ACG campaign, the Uhuru movement seeks to build what you call dual and contending power. I ask this question to you right now, right? Look at what the movement has done for African people, the institutions we built, the legacy, the principles that we stand up on, and ask yourself, if we had the same resources that Western imperial powers have, would the world be going through this crisis right now? Of course they wouldn't, right? Of course it wouldn't. Go to developmentforafrica.org, the website of the All African People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. Find out about the Black Ankh Project. Find out about the work that the Uhuru Movement did fighting against Ebola, and the way through which that has laid the blueprint through which we're fighting for African people right now in this COVID-19 crisis. I would say we're winning because we're winning African people to the struggle. That's what we're winning African people to the struggle. We the organization, once again, that has continuously brought African people back into political life, because once again, we don't believe in being what's called caught in a time warp. And I'm not dissing any other organizations, but you go to some organizations and it's like, at best, a reunion of people from the 60s or 70s, but where are the youth, right? Where are the youth? Well, the youth are in InPDUM, right? The elders are in InPDUM. The Generation Xers like myself are in InPDUM as well, right? So we're winning because we're winning the faith and the struggle of African people. Let's see some more questions. Exactly. Give us back our resources. We demand it. Okay. Do you have a goal on how much to raise today? Yeah. It would be great. Like I said, if we can raise $100. I would love for us to raise $100 in donations today. What those things go to right now, well, that's the other thing I like to say, right? You got a lot of people concerned about what the government is telling them to do. Should we stay home? Should we not stay home? So the thing is, you got a lot of people working as individuals, and they know that the government is full of crap. So when the government tells them to stay home, they want to go out into the streets. You don't have to go by the government's guidelines. Go by the guidelines being set forth by the Uhuru movement, right? Go to theburningspirit.com. Read the protocols that we're putting in place for African people to make sure that we take care of African lives, right? And that way we don't have to work in response as sort of individualists. Like I said, I understand the need to resist white power. White power say I'm gonna stay inside the house. I'm gonna go outside. I'm part. They ain't gonna stop me from being me. This is black joy. All this other stuff, right? Shoot, I mean, D Nice ain't no damn African internationalist, but he got thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people inside their homes right now, listening to music, connecting with each other. Use the resources that we have right now to connect with each other. But the money that you give, so we got some people staying inside the home, organizing like myself. We also have other comrades taking all the safety measures as possible, and hitting the streets. The resources that you give will be used to create flyers and create pamphlets informing the public from an African internationalist perspective. I saw somebody say they pledged $15. That's excellent. When where it asks you to sort of add a note, just say that you're donating to the People's War, or you're donating to the struggle against COVID-19. So we're distributing information. We're distributing paper thermometers, because people don't even have thermometers because of capitalism, because of parasitic capitalism has the way in which it's been sort of seen as even a liberatory practice. I mean, it made my heart hurt. I mean, because I remember that Thursday when everyone started hoarding the stuff here in California. My daughter was sick. I was doing some other stuff. I was just so busy that day, and I didn't know what was going on. Then I went to the grocery store, and come to find out, actually it was like a Tuesday, they had cleared out all the shelves. And I said, man, this is crazy. Then you go and people selling single rolls for $20, $30, $40. That's parasitic capitalism, right? That will not get us the liberation we need. We need collective liberation. So go to our websites, find out that stuff. Let's see. Are reparations real? Real though. Has anybody actually received reparations? So first and foremost, two things. Yes, tons of people have received reparations. We've talked about that. And it's important to know that reparations are a revolutionary demand, right? But the real revolution will be had and when Africans have control over all their land and all their resources, and these colonial borders have fallen. So yes, Jewish people have received reparations. There have been payments to some Japanese populations, some indigenous populations here within the United States as well. So reparations, people have received them. But the important thing to note is that reparations for African people, right? In 1976, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, the African People's Solidarity Committee. This is a committee made up of white/North Americans, whose goal is to secure reparations for the African community, and their reparations are put to work as a part of our institution buildings that we have, because that's the legacy of Marcus Garvey, right? The legacy is the idea that sort of the role of organizers are to institution build, right? It's through those institutions that we build that sort of we build the will of the people. I was just thinking about this recently. I remember I was in high school and we were taking a college trip, a Northern California college tour. I was from Southern California, and I remember we went to Oakland. We were visiting Mills College, and we were driving down MacArthur Boulevard, and to the left, I saw this building. It had Huey on it. It had a whole bunch of other people. It had Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And we didn't know much. We said, oh, man, that's the Black Panther Party headquarters, and stuff like that. And it wasn't until like I got older, I said, "Oh shit, that was not that was the Uhuru house, right? That was the Uhuru house." So I remember just in high school interacting and following and seeing the Uhuru house on MacArthur Boulevard in Oakland, California. And I'm from Southern California, and just really being ignited to understand that like the work has not died. And we know the work hasn't died because of the institutions that are still there. The Burning Spear is an institution. It's the oldest Black Power newspaper in print, and the only one to survive the counterinsurgency of the United States government against African liberation in the African liberation movement, going all the way back to 1968. So the APSC organizes reparations, and so if you are a white North American and you would like to donate as well, you can donate directly to InPDUM to donate money. You can also donate to Uhuru Solidarity Movement as a sustaining member. Do you feel that the stimulus package is a slap in the face towards reparations? Yes. I mean, the stimulus package is a bribe. I mean, we can even see just in relationship to other colonial nations, other settler colonial nations, such as Canada, such as the UK, that these measures being put in place isn't even a drop in the bucket. It's not even a tenth, right? Canada's paying people like $2,000 a month for the next year or something like that. And the United States, and the coldest part is that Trump was struggling in the polls, and then he said he's going to give people $1,200, and now a majority of the people like him, right? So yes, it's a slap in the face towards the struggle of poor colonized people within the United States, but it sure as hell ain't reparations. It's, like I said, once again, reparations is giving us back our resources that was taken from us. It's not a handout. It's not a stimulus check. It's giving us, but the thing that I can say is that the reparations payments, there are 60 million. Between 60 and 80 million people who pay income taxes within the United States every year. 60 and 80 million people. If you take 80 million people, if there's a $2 trillion stimulus check, stimulus package. That amounts to $25,000 per income taxpayer. $25,000. So I think what you're really getting at in that question, Quante, which is very good, is that they basically just gave a stimulus package to the economy that amounts to about $25,000 per person that pays income tax. But even you have African people, colonized African people within the United States will say things like, and trust me, I was around that time. I've been sort of engaged in the reparation struggle for 2 decades or more. People will say things like, well, I'm not saying there should be a handout, or I love my favorite, I don't want a handout, I want a hand up, or something like that. It's like, so it really is a slap. It really defeats all those reformists, all those liberal calls for reparations where they say it can't be a monetary transfer, maybe some more access here, access there. What reparations is not integration struggles, right? You should be able to go whatever school you want to. I don't care. But, education should be free anyway, right? It's free in Cuba. It's free in Venezuela, right? Reparations. So don't tell us things that basically should, and say that those should be the reparation plans and things like that, right? So, next question. So for everybody out there that's interested, hopefully share this link with people that that aren't on the InPDUM page. Share this link with those people. I just got a text message right now. Ask can I get where to look at it? Hold on a second. All right, so more questions. How can we get involved with the campaign? So there's two ways to get involved with the campaign. Email. So like I said, you can get involved as a member by going and joining InPDUM. Go to InPDUM.org and click on the link for memberships. You can be an annual membership where you pay a one-time fee, so as little as $10 for students, $25 for working adults, or you can pay a sustaining membership where you pay a certain amount of money each month. Or you can get involved as a volunteer. We have this thing called the Uhuru InTU Brigade, which is a volunteer brigade in which you can volunteer. You can also volunteer as a part of what we call the local working groups. So here's the deal. Here in San Diego, we have an Africans Charge Genocide working group. It's called Black Power at the Border. We at Black Power at the Border, we say the border is genocide, mass incarceration and gang documentation is genocide, detention centers are genocide, right? So focusing on these issues that we have here in San Diego and Tijuana, we work for the organization and the unity of African people on both sides of the border, and we've done a variety of different political and social things. We take resources to Africans in need over in Tijuana. We currently have a shoe drive because we've got Africans who literally walk tens of thousands of miles and things like that. So we meet Africans where they're at. Public information campaigns. We've held public lectures and social events like movie nights, music events. I'm a DJ on the side, so music events. So we just, like I said, so that's the works of our working group. So what we are calling upon people is to join those working groups. For the people in the movement that are watching right now and want to become more involved, we have some positions that are available. We need an outreach coordinator, a political action coordinator. If you're interested and you're in the movement, you're a member or you're a volunteer and you're part of another organization, and you want to join the steering committee for Africans Charge Genocide, like I said, go to the website InPDUM.org. And email us and you can get involved, or just place your information here in the comments and we'll get involved with you. How important is it for youth to be recruited in our movement? That's an excellent question, Kumba. The youth are the lifeblood of the movement. Like I said, that's what really sets apart the movement from other organizations, and without a doubt clearly frustrates some people too, right? Is that time and time again, the youth have chosen the leadership of the Uhuru movement. Our youngest member is 4. And our oldest member is right. So we understand that, and whatever you can do, we ask you to put that work to the to African community. My 2 younger daughters are members, right? And we didn't sign them up. We didn't convince. We didn't make them or anything like that. It's not a what you call a like ornament or something like that. They want to make a difference for African people their age, right? They understand that central to it is self-determination. If I asked them explicitly, I say, baby girl, what organization, if she was around right now, what organization do you think Harriet Tubman would be a member of? And she says, you know what? Harriet Tubman will be a member of InPDUM, Daddy. Harriet Tubman will be a member of InPDUM, right? So she knows that, and it's something as simple as is she feels like she's got some things that her classmates don't have, and she wants to make sure that they have the things that they need to succeed in school, So she wants to make sure her friends have backpacks and other things that they need to succeed in school. That's another project we have called Black Community Control of Schools, right? All this stuff ties in together. The secretary of the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign is an amazing comrade named Maisha Kadumu. And when you talk about Black Power pedigree, there's no one with much more Black Power pedigree than her family going back 55 plus years here in California, and she's just developed, which we're going to be releasing soon, a virtual curriculum for people parenting, a virtual Black Power curriculum that we're calling Uhuru Shule, which means freedom school in Swahili, for people to look at. The commission the party put out. How important is the recruitment of the youth? Yeah, so the recruitment of the youth is crucial. That's central to the APSP, and they've actually created a commission for it. How does APSP differ from HR 40? Yeah, so exactly. So once again, right, the fight for reparations that we're fighting is not House Resolution 40. First off, it's about the international struggle and liberation of African people. We know that, for example, not by our estimate, by the estimate of the United Nations alone, Africans in the U.S. alone are owed $14.1 trillion, right? $14.1 trillion. So we understand that. And yes, Uhuru comrade, the stimulus check ain't shit. Exactly. Trillions are owed to the African nation. $14.1 trillion. That and this is the United Nations, right? This is the people who are the referees of white power have said that Africans in their working group has said that Africans are owed $14.1 trillion. That amounts to about a $1 million payment to every African family in the U.S. But that's only one place that we're talking about, right? What differs for us is it's not it's an international struggle. We know that Africans from all around the world are owed these payments, right? So people say, well, that will break capitalism. Well, yes, exactly. Capitalism has tried to break Africans' backs. The liberation of African people will be had with its downfall. But so what I think we're here to do, right? It's already fallen. We're here to just give it just a tap it in, tap a Rooney, right? So just give it a little push. What are your thoughts on a nationwide rent strike? Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be absolutely great. Because, see, one of the things that this moment has also done is it's exposed the state, but it's also exposed the parasites, the petty bourgeois opportunists that we have within our communities as well. But it should have also exposed to some of the people who thought that they was part of the ruling class that they're also actually not part of the ruling class. So oftentimes, right, capitalism for colonized people is an ideological contradiction and stuff. You got I saw a report that said 500,000 millionaires, 500,000 people stopped being millionaires just over 1 week alone. Right, 3.3 million people signed up for unemployment last week. Right, but people like Jay-Z was telling us this the year of economic wealth. This the year of economic wealth and all this other generational wealth and all this other nonsense. Invest all your money into the stock market. And things like that. As opposed and some people say, well, aren't y'all saying that? No, we're talking about collective organizing. We're talking about institution building. For the liberation of African people. So when it comes to that rent strike, yes, right. Expose those parasites. Either those parasite, either the petty bourgeois forces, the people who make their money off of people struggling, are going to be with the people, or they're going to be with the white power structures. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, the stuff is, many of those contradictions have been resolved, right? When you're stuck in your house right now because you don't want some invisible virus to come in and get you, because of the disregard for life, put forward by these goons that run the United States, then like the questions become very, very clear, very, very simple at this time. Let's see. Any other question? Yep. Shout out to the Uhuru babies that we have here in San Diego and everywhere else. Like I said, shout out to Maisha Kadumu, to the whole Kadumu family. Let's see. Who can donate? Yeah, you can donate, as small as possible, anywhere from $5 on up. Let's see if we can get those resources. So since African people meet the criteria for genocide, the question asks, why doesn't the U.S. give our reparations like they've given other people their reparations? So first and foremost, it's important to know, especially when we talk about other colonized people, that what those people receive at best have been bribes, right? Bribes to be a part of white power, colonialism, and things like that. It's very common for people, especially in the reparation struggle, to say things like indigenous people got casinos and a bunch of nonsense like that, right? Well, first off, most don't. That's very clear. And the other thing is it is not reparations to be included into a parasitic system that preys upon other vulnerable people, right? I live in a part of San Diego that's not too far from where all the casinos are, and every single weekend from Wednesday on up, you see all these vans filled with old people. They go straight to the retirement homes, straight to the trolley stations, and they pick people up so that they can take whatever little resources they're living off of and go and give it to the casinos. That's not revolution. That's not independence, right? And increasingly, those land are being increasingly even just turned over straight to the actual casinos and stuff like that. So the important answer to that question is, like, first off, if we understand real reparations, right, in terms of colonized people, nobody has actually had real reparations within for no colonized people. And the reason why, I guess, the question is, why doesn't the U.S. give us our reparations like they've given us? So the reason why is because they know it will break the system. It's important to know that, like I said, go and get the chairman's book. The recent book is called Vanguard, the Advanced Detachment of the African Revolution. And in it, he makes it plain. He says simply, African people are primitive accumulation. Right, Karl Marx wrongfully he acknowledged that primitive accumulation was the origins of capitalism, but he saw it sort of as a necessary evil, right? But what Chairman Omali Yeshitela's leadership allows for us to understand is that Africans were the material wealth that produced the United States. So when you go to like 1865 and you look at the overthrow of chattel slavery within the United States, which was led by African people, it wasn't given to us, right? The overthrow of chattel slavery within the United States, which is then sort of created, followed by the system of neo-slavery, but the overthrow of chattel slavery within the United States, at that moment, it was African people who was that genocidal system of slavery's most prized value, right? African people were valued above any other commodity within the United States. If you look at the value placed upon African people, there was 4 million people that were enslaved in 1865, with an average of somewhere between $500 and $1,000 each. We're talking about somewhere between, do the math, like $16 billion, that money and something like that. $16 billion from at that time. So you're talking about surprise, surprise, somewhere in the range of 17 trillion dollars now. So, of what was the monetary value placed upon African people in the United States in the 1860s. So Africans were primitive accumulation. So for them to give us back our resources, dollar for dollar, value for value, they know that it would mean African freedom and the downfall of their genocidal system. We got a little bit more time, maybe for one more question before I sign off. Is there anyone on here that is just a viewer that is not a member of InPDUM that is interested in joining InPDUM? If there is, I would implore you to go to InPDUM.org, InPDUM.org, and join today. Right. Join today. You can join as a sustaining member, as an organizing member, but join the struggle today for the liberation of our people. Take those skills that you have, give them back to African people. That's what we're going to do. Anybody else? Let me see. Is there any questions I missed? How do you define colonialism? It's complicated, but colonialism is the to make it short. Colonialism is the control of one group of people by another group of people, right? That could be direct or that could be far, but that is colonialism is a system of control in which one group has power, the other group does not have self-determination. So the overturning of colonialism. So there's various forms of colonialism. There is what you might call extractive colonialism, right, in which you extract the resources. There's settler colonialism, in which you take whole groups of people and move those people to other places. Because that's the other thing that's important to note, is that like all these things we really dealt with are it's like African lives and African resources have become the African lives and African resources have become have been done at the expense of the growth of the Western white European nation building. Right. So the way through which, say, the Dutch resolve their conflicts, their class conflicts, is by sending their poor, their farmers to Southern Africa to steal land from African people. The way in which the British resolved their conflict was by sending settlers to the United States, settlers to what became Canada, settlers to Australia, right? And things like that. So those are different forms of colonialism. To join the working groups, like I said, join InPDUM, join the organizing committee, become the local representative of InPDUM in your area, and organize those working groups today. We're developing working groups right now in Portland, Oregon. In Seattle, in Oakland, California, in Boston, Massachusetts, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in New York City, in Newark, New Jersey, St. Petersburg, Florida, Huntsville, Alabama, Houston, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, Chicago, Illinois. Right. Get involved with the local InPDUM branches and build the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign. For some of y'all in other progressive organizations, join, calling upon you, join InPDUM, have your organizations endorse the Africans Charge, or find out how you can endorse the Africans Charge Genocide Campaign as well. All right. If there's no more questions, I'll go on and sign off. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Follow those guidelines. I want to give a salute once again to Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I want to give a salute once again to President Kalambayi Andanette, to Dr. Aisha Fields, to Luwezi Kinshasa, the Secretary General of African Socialist International, to all the comrades on the continent, in South Africa, in Ghana, to the comrades over in Tijuana right now, who, because of this sort of crisis and imperial borders, a line has been drawn between us. So I want to give a shout out to you all. Be on the lookout for us this evening. We're having a Burning Spear study group that will be broadcast live here on Facebook as well. Right now, we've raised $75, so Uhuru will meet that goal by the rest of the day. Like I said, Uhuru to everybody. I'm really looking forward to you all, talking to you all soon. This is Matsemela Odom. Come on and join us this evening in the Burning Spirit Study Group. Uhuru.